the plan that the Jags announced will have a stadium renovation costing between 1.3 and 1.4 billion dollars. Yeah. But as you heard in the video, the entire project that the Jags are proposing is a $2 billion investment, or a $2 billion project. Of that, let's call it 1.4 is the stadium. But then there's development of other areas around the stadium that are a part of the entire project that the Jags are pitching. The way the numbers are pitched right now from the Jags, the proposal is that the Jags would cover 50% of the total development here. Okay. Which 50-50 sounds really good, right? If you dig a little,
50% of 1.2 billion.
No, 50% of 2 billion.
Of 2 billion. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, included in that is the stadium. And the way the numbers would actually break down is this would have the city paying a greater portion of the stadium costs.
Okay.
And so it would not be 50-50 on the stadium, according to the initial proposal by the Jags. Their proposal is a bit bigger, and they're proposing to do 50-50 of the entire deal beyond the stadium. So that's interesting. 50-50 stadium or 50-50 proposal of the entire 2 billion is going to be a very big topic for discussion as we go in here.
Okay. That's like the big kind of like the overall negotiation that's going to happen. That's probably the main storyline in there.
I think so. Okay. I think so. There's a pretty big delta there between 50-50 of the stadium and 50-50 of the overall $2 billion project there. And so how do we come to a meeting in the minds where there's value for all is going to be a big thing.
What do you know about like how these things take place? What do you think is going to end up happening? Like I hear, okay, there's a potential for like, if I heard this correctly, like $1.2 billion stadium deal, $2 billion overall development deal. The first thing that I think is, if it's going to go 50-50, no matter what, that means that there's some serious money, right? Shad Con, a real worldwide billionaire player. This guy's not a rookie. And he is debating whether to drop, like 600 million to $1 billion into downtown Jacksonville. So the first thing that I hear is, okay, smartest money in town or up there is thinking, I want to pour somewhere between 600 million to $1 billion into downtown Jacksonville is the first thing that stands out to me.
Right.
So pretty good sign for the city, right? Like seeing that he's not going to spend that kind of coin on something that isn't going to like pencil out for him. So that feels like a really nice validation of investment, which if I was coming from his standpoint is like, hey, if I'm bringing this kind of like credit, this kind of money, and I believe that like I'm going to get a return on 600 to $1 billion here, you should probably feel comfortable that you're going to get a return 600 to $1 billion. Is that pretty fair to like think about?
Yeah, I would assume that, right? Deals this big only work if there's value on both ends, right? So I know that there's folks within the city that are running the models of economic development and what is a deal like this worth to the city, because ultimately the city has stakeholders that they need to report to. What if we were to drop, call it 600 million or more into a deal, what return on investment are we going to receive from that? And you do that through tax revenue growth, from additional economic drivers, from new jobs being created and things of that nature. So yeah, I think both sides are trying to figure out the value here. One other point that I was thinking, which I think we need to talk a little bit more about, is you remember when Mark Lamping was here? Mark Lamping is the president of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you know what he was talking about? We were talking a little bit about the stadium deal, but this was probably 6 months ago or nine months ago when it wasn't the biggest. You remember he said, listen, through our investments that we've already made in downtown Jacksonville, we look at this as an opportunity for us to see not just a return on investment from this new stadium deal, but an augmentation, a maximization of the other investments we've already made in downtown Jacksonville.
Like what?
The fact that Shad and the Jags are redeveloping the shipyards, which was all over that video that you just saw there, that beautiful marina and that Class A office space.
They're already doing that.
They are already doing that. They're already dumping over $300 million into that right next to the stadium. And that's going to have a Four Seasons. So our first 5-star hotel downtown is going to be the Four Seasons. Shad also owns Four Seasons across the world as well. So he's bringing a Four Seasons here. So that's already done. That's already happened, right? And the city and Shad have worked together, and there's incentives that he's getting, of course, to do that. But the way that this reflects on the city, in the way that Mark Lamping shared it with us, he said, listen, we can get a better return on our investment because of the investments we've already made in downtown, because we're committed. What that means is we can ask for less incentives required on this new stadium deal. If you think that your ultimate return goals are how you're making your decision, which is how these high level decisions are made, if they've already got an investment here, which will do better if the city's investment in a stadium deal comes to fruition, then they have multiple ways to get to their return requirement, which ultimately means as a city, we would need to give less incentives than maybe another city would need to give, simply because of Shad's commitment to downtown.
Because he's pot committed.
He's pot committed, right? He's already done these things, which is not normal for an NFL owner to do. Like I'm a huge Steelers fan, right? I don't think I've ever read an article about the Rooneys developing some part of downtown Pittsburgh. Maybe it happened, but I certainly haven't been aware of it. And I love the Rooneys and I love the Steelers. It's not a requirement to have an NFL franchise and an owner. And it's not normal to have what we have here in Jacksonville as far as Shad believing in downtown.
Got it. So if I'm reading between the lines, I'm hearing you say, first of all, we're talking about this big deal. This is a series of big deals that have been happening, that are already happening in downtown. We've talked about it a lot on the show. JWB is doing some big deals downtown. JWB has also been a part of the committee of recruiting other developers to do things downtown. Shad Con is one of these developers that is already dropping a whole bunch of coin downtown, regardless of this deal, right? It's already happening. And this feels like the opportunity to put a crown jewel on top of it all, which means that multiple stakeholders have alignments and interests to make this thing happen, meaning the city, Shad, other developers to pitch in if something has to happen and do their part, because there's a big, big win-win thing here 100%. That is already en route, that people already see, and people have already put a bunch of money into and don't want to walk away from.
100%.
That's pretty cool.
It's unique. That's why this is such a topic on this show. Like, that's why this is an inflection point for Jacksonville overall. And to bring it home, because many of you are investors in rental properties in those neighborhoods right around downtown, that's why this is an urgent moment. It's like when you have these catalysts, when the stars are aligning like this, it happens fast. And when it happens fast, more developers start coming in. They see an opportunity to make a great return on their investment. And that's when rents start going up and home prices start going up in downtown and around downtown. And so, when I saw this video, my friend texted it to me. My cousin texted it to me, who's not in Jacksonville. I had 2 or 3 other people reach out to me with this video. I didn't even know it was released. And this was like middle of last week. And I said, oh my goodness. I watched this video and it was like the Jags speaking the same language that we have been speaking on this show for over a year now, except they used the catalyst of the stadium. And we haven't talked about the stadium yet, but if you just talked about everything else we've talked about as a catalyst, the University of Florida with their satellite campus coming to downtown Jacksonville. We talked about all of the drivers of jobs coming into Jacksonville already. We talked about JWB and how we own 20 city blocks in the North Core, the north part of downtown Jacksonville. Like, you just supplement any of those for stadium, and the pitch is the same.
Same pitch.
And I loved that.
And I love how you immediately brought it back to the realization of the reason why we care about this on this show specifically. We're here to educate you about real estate and all that stuff, but let's be real. We are a community of people that own workforce housing surrounding the urban core of Jacksonville. And we have been making the argument for a long time that Jacksonville's downtown is a sleeping giant. And when that thing turns on, when it reaches this critical mass of flywheel of developers coming in, then all of the surrounding areas will rapidly rise in appreciation, rapidly rise in rents. We've seen it in Nashville. We've seen it in Charlotte. We've seen it in Denver. This is a formula that we know. And at the end of the day, what this video represents is Warren Buffett saying, hey, everybody, I'm about to drop 1.5 billion into this stock.
Yeah, exactly.
And in the stock market, you're not allowed to like have that insider information.
Right.
And then move on it. And if Warren Buffett were to advertise it openly, the stock would immediately shoot up in 3 seconds. Whereas in Jacksonville right now, the ability to tie your money, like to bet on the winning horse alongside billionaires that are coming at it with a giant set of chips, and just put one chip right next to them on the
one
table.
Chip, one rental property.
By investing in one rental property or 3 or 5 or whatever. And the fact that in order to do that in any other town, you would have to like have a partner there that you know that you can count on to manage it, because or else you can only do it locally or it's going to be a bad experience. That is, at the end of the day, why we are so freaking pumped about it on this show. And we'll break down the rest of this stuff, but I want to make that very, very clear. Anybody listening, that is the reason to go to chatwithjwb.com. If you don't know much about it and you want to just start understanding what it takes to buy one of these workforce housing properties and take advantage of this unique situation right before appreciation goes bananas and rents go bananas and there's all this overpromise under deliver, go to chatwithjwb.com, get that conversation started, and let's keep talking about this really, really exciting news.